Hi, I'm Anna Denton-Jones of Refreshing Law, and in this third shared parental leave session, I'm going to be talking around the pay implications. Before we look at shared parental leave, it's worth just drawing your attention to a recent case called Shooter, Shuter, versus the Ford Motor Company. And in that case, there was a gentleman who took additional paternity leave. So after 20 weeks, his partner returned to work from maternity leave and he swapped with her and took some time off under the scheme for additional paternity leave that's going to come to an end in April when shared parental leave comes in. Now, Ford paid enhanced maternity pay to mothers who worked for it. So he argued that I'm being less favourably treated here as a gentleman and I should be being paid the same, and it was worth around £18,000 to him, the difference between what he'd received in terms of statutory paternity pay and what he would have received if he'd been a woman working an enhanced maternity pay for Ford. So when the courts looked at this, they said, well, it's not a direct discrimination argument because the correct comparator would be somebody else, another woman who's taken additional paternity leave. So, for example, in same-sex relationships, you might have another woman taking additional paternity leave. And of course, he'd been treated exactly the same as that person, so there was no direct discrimination. But what the court was prepared to find was that there was indirect discrimination. So the way the maternity policy worked within the company indirectly affected gentlemen in his position. So the question then was whether or not Ford could objectively justify that treatment. And they found that they could, because in Ford's particular circumstances, they'd identified that retaining women was an issue for the company and had actually enhanced maternity pay as part of a strategy to encourage women into the workplace and make sure that they kept hold of them. So on that basis, it was found that it was a proportionate means of achieving that legitimate expectation, and the scheme could be objectively justified. But transport that over into your own organisation. Maybe you've got much more equal gender balance, or maybe you've even got more women working for you than men. If that's the case, you're going to struggle to objectively justify that differential treatment between men and women. And certainly for a number of years now, I've been anticipating that as more dads take a role in sharing the role of primary carer for the children with mothers, that we would see this kind of argument coming out. So that's the background. Transport that over now into shared parental leave. Well, the correct comparator in any situation when it comes to a direct discrimination argument is certainly going to be another person taking shared parental leave. So in the case of a man, it would be a woman taking shared parental leave. In the case of a woman, it's going to be a man. So it's possible that Shooter argument against the Ford Motor Company may well get transported across into this arena if employers don't think very carefully about their pay policies around shared parental leave. The second thing to think about is actually the message that you want to send out as your organisation around this shared parental leave. It's no good if you've got an enhanced maternity pay scheme offering nothing under shared parental leave if all that's going to do is just encourage people to never ever curtail their maternity leave and actually use shared parental leave. So lots of organisations are thinking about evening things up a little bit more. This week we've seen an announcement that the civil service are going to enhance pay for shared parental leave for both men and women to equalise things. So lots and lots of employers are looking at how they might do that. Beyond the issue of enhancement, obviously, we've got how is the pay going to work in general? Well, if you remember, mothers taking maternity leave get paid 90% of their salary for the first 6 weeks if they've got sufficient service. So it may well be that actually a lot of women don't choose to curtail their maternity leave until after that 6 week period because they don't want to lose that pay. The statutory scheme will work exactly the same as it already does. I imagine the rate will go up next April. It's currently £138.18 when you're being paid statutory maternity pay or statutory paternity pay or statutory adoption pay. It's just going to be called shared parental pay, but the total number of weeks that will be able to be claimed will remain the same at a total of 37 weeks. Beyond that, employers will need to think about the terms and conditions. Things like holidays are going to still apply. So people will accrue, obviously, throughout any period of leave that they're taking, and the usual things that we have to wrestle with when people take maternity leave, we'll have to think about for people who are taking shared parental leave as well. I can imagine that people will want employers to look at carrying over leave into another year. There is case law, obviously, that protects women from a sex discrimination perspective when it comes to carrying over a holiday that they haven't been able to take during 1 year because they've been on maternity leave into the next year. Obviously, an employer could refuse to do that when it comes to shared parental leave because it would apply the same rules to a man or a woman if they took shared parental leave. But the same arguments about needing to be fair and sort of equalise things in order to encourage people to use the scheme may well apply to things like holiday. Same rules as apply to maternity and paternity leave will apply when it comes to really it's the payment or salary wages that changes when somebody's on this leave. Everything else continues. Somebody's continuity of employment is obviously going to continue. They're going to accrue holiday, all their rights to keep their mobile phone or their company car or their gym membership or other benefits that you put in place, they will all still be there. The one thing that is slightly different is the ability for somebody to obviously come back into work for up to 20 days during the shared parental leave period. We're used to KIT days, keeping in touch days for maternity. These days are being called split days, shared parental keeping in touch days. It's 10 days KIT under maternity. It's up to 20 days split for shared parental leave. The pay position, obviously, if somebody is on that, it's down to the employer to agree what they're going to pay that person for that day's work. Normally, most employers make it 1/260th of somebody's annual salary and just pay them a day's salary if they do choose to come in for training or for whatever reason to use those days. And obviously, if they use those days, it doesn't break the shared parental leave or the pay that's being paid around it. If you've got any questions after today's session, please do email. It's adenton@refreshinglawltd.co.uk. Thank you very much.